Hello everyone, hey there, welcome to this new video. In this video I want to talk about my story and about my language learning experience because a lot of people are still asking me how are you learning these different languages, and also they ask me why did you start learning these languages. So these are common questions, and I think that I answered these questions before maybe, but in this video I want to talk a little bit more detailed about it so you know the entire story. Because like as you probably noticed that most of my videos are pretty like entertaining, like it's languages combined with entertainment. So I don't really have a lot of videos where I give, language learning advice, or there are many other channels like that which are more educative. Well, in my case it's more entertaining, speaking languages on the streets with strangers. But still some people are wondering like, why did you started learning these languages and how? Well, first the why question, okay? Maybe you don't expect it, but at the beginning I was pretty shy. So before I started learning languages, I was, sort of shy, maybe a little bit like introverted. And the languages really gave me a sort of extra tool, an extra way to talk to strangers and to feel more comfortable. So I would say that if I speak someone's language, whatever it is, Mandarin or Spanish, I see that people are more open, so it's easy to talk to strangers on the streets when you speak their language. When I would speak English or just Dutch to Dutch people, it would be way harder to talk to them, because like I don't know them, they don't know me. They might wonder like, what do you need, what do you want? There's probably something which more people are experiencing. So if you're talking to strangers, it's pretty hard to talk to them. Sometimes I get ignored. It's not always easy, but I definitely think that speaking someone's language can help a lot. I met a lot of friends. I think a lot of friends which I have right now, I think most of them I know them because I talk to them on the streets or in the supermarket, and that's so cool. So I have a lot of international friends right now. So basically, that's the reason why I started learning languages, because I just thought like, hey, it's interesting to get to know more about another culture. I can learn so much from my friends right now. Different, like ideas, different food styles as well. So I also sometimes really like it when I'm with my friends and we are cooking together and making different, like food types from each country. So that's really cool. So I also tried Ukrainian food, for example. A friend of mine is Ukrainian, and sometimes she's making Ukrainian food, and this is really cool, So that's the answer at the question why, and why not just one, but why multiple languages? Well, I really love to get to know as much cultures as possible. Like for me, it's like traveling, but then in my own country. So I mean, traveling is not always easy. I cannot always find the time. But when I'm in the Netherlands and I'm able to talk to people on the streets, it still feels like I'm traveling with my mind, So that's cool. Another reason to study languages for me is that I never feel bored. So there's always something to do for me, Always I can, watch a movie in a different language. I can relax with friends. There's always something to do, So I wake up, I start the day, I meet my friends, or I watch a movie in a different language or whatever, or I'm just studying with a book, but there's always something to do, and that's really nice for me, So now the how question. So how did I start learning these languages? Well, some people know it, people who know me for a longer time. This is also the reason why I make this video, because there are also a lot of new people who don't know about my story before. So I started learning languages from tourists, okay? So when I was 23 years old, I think, 23 years old, I started learning Mandarin with tourists. So I was just talking to Chinese people. I asked them like, how do you say this in Chinese? How do you say that? And I was writing down those phrases and words. And each day I remembered I was learning maybe 10 words, 10 phrases, right? So after a month, it would already be 200 phrases and 20 words. So that was how I kept doing that for maybe a couple of months. And after a while, I was able to have a basic conversation with Chinese people. And I also learned some other languages using the same style, just asking tourists to translate phrases for me, words, stuff like that. And the funny thing is, it was free because like no one was like, yo, why you're bothering me? I can remember that all the stories were a little bit like, hey, cool, of course I can help you. So cool that you're learning my language. And sometimes I also recorded a video so I could listen to the audio later. That was like a great way. And yeah, that's just very, very cool in my opinion, you know, like that I was able to learn so many languages on this way, you know. It was not really like serious or something. I was just like starting. I was like a little bit like playing with the language, let's call it like that. But I really had a lot of fun. And each year it became more serious, and I got grammar books. So I tried to, you know, learn more grammar, because like when you're just learning phrases, of course you can understand something of the grammar because like you're seeing patterns with the other phrases. But still I thought like, okay, it's cool to have a grammar book, to have a dictionary, so I can like learn a language more detailed. So that's also like how I learned Indonesian, with a dictionary. Indonesian doesn't really have like a complex grammar, so you can learn a lot with, I call it like creating a puzzle basically. So you're learning words and you try to put them in phrases. And that really worked with Indonesian, for example, because the grammar is it's not hard. If you have something plural, it's just two words together. So for example, person is orang and then people is orang-orang. Yeah, what else? For example, buku is book, buku is books, and so on, you know. So that's really really cool, you know. So yeah, so with the word orang, for example, if I want to say I'm Dutch, saya orang Belanda, you know, saya orang Belanda, I'm Dutch, you know. So it's not easy to learn Indonesian basically. A language like Mandarin is already a bit harder because of the tones. So later I also tried to improve the tones by just listening to Chinese native speakers, by by repeating the words, stuff like that, with the right tone. And that's how I learned a lot. I learned a lot of other languages by listening to music. And I learned, for example, Danish by playing online games with Danish people for a while. I was just learning while playing games, and that's like a really nice way to learn a language. So again, I learned most languages from strangers on the streets, tourists, but later I was also like getting grammar books, dictionaries. I was listening to music, watching movies with subtitles. If there were parts which I didn't understand, I just tried to write it down or something, you know, like. So that's like also a very great way. So I'm just, you know, like I really hope that this video gives you a little bit better idea of like how I learned languages. And if you still have any questions, just like don't worry, you can just like ask it in the comments. Like if you have any questions or anything which I didn't tell in the video, then just let me know. Like before I forget it, so a lot of people ask me like, what was your first language which you learned, your first language? Well, that was English. Dutch is my native language. English was the first language which I learned at school. And the first foreign language which I ever learned, which I didn't have at school, you know, was Mandarin. So I had English at school, French and German, and English and Dutch, of course. And the first language which I never had at school, which I really started learning myself, was Mandarin Chinese, and I was 23 years old when I started learning it. So I really hope that this video gives you a little bit of better idea about my story, and I really hope that you're motivated. And of course I also want to say that everyone has a different style of learning a language. I'm not saying that this is the way or whatever, or I'm not even saying it's a good way. It's subjective. For me it's working. Of course, I'm still making mistakes. I'm still learning, but I'm happy with the progress. I'm happy with all those people who I've got to know. So that's cool. All right. Bye-bye. Have a nice morning, afternoon, evening, or night.